With the remnants of Hurricane Beryl now pushing well through the eastern United States, a new problem is going to sprout up as a less active pattern comes behind it. That is the heat. Look at these anomalies that are on the way as we head towards next week. Much warmer than average for a lot of the country. I've got a breakdown of the entire pattern ahead, including some of my custom graphics right here, so stick around. Those model maps you just saw right there in the intro are from WeatherBell. They're my partner right here at One Nation Weather, so if you want to get a link to them, make sure you're checking out that trial right down there in the description. Also, if you're new to the channel, make sure you're considering hitting that subscribe button after you watch this one, especially if you like it and want more consistent, accurate, and easy to understand videos in the future. Let's get right into this here with the future radar. From the GFS model, we're tracking the remnants of Hurricane Beryl, now a post-tropical system, making its way through parts of Illinois, Indiana, Kentucky, Ohio, Michigan, Pennsylvania. Yeah, it's a broad area there, especially surrounding the Ohio Valley as we go into our Wednesday, July 10th in the early morning that we're going to be seeing this heavy rainfall. This has actually been spawning some tornadoes from as far south as Texas all the way on up through Kentucky and Indiana today as I film this on your Tuesday evening. Going into our Wednesday, this is going to be the area we're watching for not only flooding, but also some of that severe weather that could include tornadoes. Pennsylvania, New York, I'm looking at you, into Vermont, New Hampshire. These are going to be a few of the locations where we have the best chance for not only that heavy rainfall, but again, a few of those spin-ups to get going as this low pressure, that remnant low, continues moving through that direction. Then from there, here's that new pattern I was hinting at earlier in the video in the title thumbnail. We've got all this rainfall here on the East Coast as we head towards the back half of the week. This is Thursday at 8 p.m., but this is very much so right along the coastline. So if you're not along that Interstate 95 corridor we've got there or eastward, except with the exception of Florida, you're pretty much not getting too much of a thunderstorm chance Thursday going into Friday. Similar deal up here with very spotty coverage of storms in Wisconsin, Illinois, Indiana, Michigan. So not much in the way of thunderstorm coverage Thursday going into Friday. Now, I will tell you Friday there is a little bit more, even west of the I-95 corridor through parts of Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina. But overall, not too much other than some of those mid-Atlantic thunderstorms. Look at this. This is the overwhelming majority of the country seeing not a drop of rain as we close out the week. And this could be a problem as we head towards next week with a lot of heat over the country, as well as some dry conditions. Now let's time out Beryl. If you want to skip ahead to another part of the video, make sure you're using the timestamps. Here's what's left of it as we go into our Wednesday morning. This is as we go towards Wednesday, July 10th at 2 a.m. in the morning. Heavy rainfall in northern Indiana, parts of Michigan, Ohio. Ohio and Indiana wouldn't rule out seeing some more isolated severe weather with the potential for tornadoes even overnight tonight. But overall, that threat is dwindling on down as I film this video and afterwards. We'll see a new one develop later tomorrow, though. First of all, though, we've got to go through our Wednesday morning. This is 7, 8, 9 o'clock in the morning. Heavy rainfall stretching from Kalamazoo and Holland and Michigan all the way on over there to Kingston and Syracuse. So from southern Canada all the way down there into central New York. Very heavy precipitation coming on down. And this is just one model. This might not be the exact scenario that occurs, but it certainly gives us a great idea of the fact that by the middle of the afternoon here, or maybe even earlier, we could be seeing some pretty feisty storms pop up. Parts of north-central Pennsylvania, really getting into southern New York. Southern and central New York really looks like a big corridor for some of those stronger storms on our Wednesday. Over here into parts of Vermont as well. Notice some of those pinks showing up in these storms, indicative of the heavy nature of the rainfall, so the flooding potential that could come out of them, but also that threat that we could get for some of those isolated tornadoes, since these are those stronger storms moving through the eastern side of a low-pressure system. Here we go, 7, 8, 9 o'clock in the evening, closing out the day, still looking at a lot of heavy precipitation. A lot of this general rain in especially Maine, I think New Hampshire at this point, but I really think from Vermont back down there towards Maryland, we could at least still be on the table for some damaging winds at the minimum out of some of those storms. Other than some showers in the far northern parts of the Northeast, things should really quiet down going into Thursday. But again, here's that Wednesday tornado threat. Here's that tornado energy. Now, the scale at the bottom of your screen indicates that green is not very high, so we're not going to see a whole crap ton of energy up here in parts of New York. Any of these locations that you see in the whites and greens, this is low-end parameters for tornadoes. But since we've got a warm front lifting north of this, we're going to have some moisture. We're going to have enough instability in the atmosphere to spark off at least some isolated tornadoes through this region. Definitely be prepared for that, as well as that damaging wind threat out of any afternoon and evening storms. Notice how even as we head towards 7, 8, 9, 10 p.m. on our Wednesday from Richmond, Virginia, all the way back on up there to Syracuse and Albany and New York, we could still be continuing with some level of, not necessarily a tornado threat, but at least some sort of damaging wind threat with any line of storms that can develop along that, because this low pressure system will remain pretty strong. And here's what that looks like on my ONW severe scale for our Wednesday, July 10th, the remnants of Beryl sparking a third straight day of severe weather. A level 3 of 7 for scattered severe weather in Pennsylvania, all the way in over there towards parts of New Hampshire, as that low-level jet stream energy will be quite available for this, increasing that threat again for the damaging winds and a few tornadoes in that area I just mentioned. There's a little bit of a zoomed-in picture for you. Again, if you're in the dark green or the yellow shade, that's where I really think that you have the highest chance for some severe weather at the isolated to scattered rate going into our Wednesday. So that's it with the severe weather, but let's talk precipitation totals. It's going to be a narrow swath closer to that warm front where we see a lot of the heaviest rainfall. A lot of this is going to fall Wednesday. This is one model, so again, don't trust, your life with these totals and think that they're going to be exactly correct. But certainly, keep an eye out for these 3 to 5 inch rainfall totals that could be fairly numerous coming out of New York, going through a lot of the northern 2/3 of Vermont, New Hampshire, over there into parts of south central Maine as well. There will be some locally higher totals. We could get upwards of 6 to 8 inches in a few spots. That's not going to be for everyone. In fact, it's not going to be for most people. Definitely track that, though, if you live in those locations. It's going to be pretty marginal flood threat elsewhere, though. But here's my flood zones graphic. This is a new graphic I'm unveiling right here at One Nation Weather. Let me know if you like it down there in the comments section. You can see if you live in parts of New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, as well as Maine, those exact same areas I just highlighted, that is where we've got that scattered to even widespread flood threat. So look at the color on the top left side of your screen and definitely match that on up, because you could be looking at a pretty significant risk for some flooding, even if you don't get severe weather heading into our Wednesday. So that's it with Beryl. That's going to get out of here. You see that jet stream energy heading out of the picture. Let's talk a little bit more of the longer range pattern here with that heat that I mentioned in the title, thumbnail, all that. This is what's going to be setting everything up. We've got this ridge in the west, not much jet stream energy going around it. In fact, the entire country really staying pretty inactive in terms of strong jet stream pulses heading towards the back half of this week. July 11th, July 12th, that's Thursday and Friday, going into Saturday, July 13th. Not much going on at all. In fact, this entire area, this corridor from Texas to Oklahoma up to Wisconsin and then back to the southeast there towards the Carolinas, this entire area, not even seeing really any jet stream energy at all moving on through there, about 15 to 20,000 feet up. The models are agreeing on that for this weekend. So don't expect much in the way of precipitation. We're going to have a lot of ridging and heat building. We could see some storms try to ride the northern end of that heading out of the weekend and towards next week, though. As you notice, the Dakotas, Minnesota, a typical jet stream pattern for this time of the year with that little pulse moving on through there. That could instigate some severe weather chances, again, really elevating Saturday and onward. Here's a look at those temperature anomalies. These are from these ensembles, so this is a collection of models being averaged out to kind of show you where we've got these most anomalous conditions. They're all agreeing that from California and Arizona all the way up there towards Montana, it's going to be a very hot finish to this upcoming week, going out of Thursday into Friday. Temperatures 10 to 15 to even 25 degrees plus above normal for this time of the year. So this is Thursday in the afternoon. Prepare for that in that region. It is going to be very sweltering, whereas in the east, it's pretty marginal in terms of temperature anomalies, only 2 to 5 degrees cooler or warmer than average. As we will have just had Beryl move through, things are a little bit shaken up in terms of the weather pattern. Things will not be as shaken up, and things will be a lot more defined by the time we head towards the upcoming weekend, though. This is Saturday, July 13th. This is when that jet stream is very inactive across the country, and inactivity means some ridging is able to build, and we've got warmer than average conditions from Alabama to Pennsylvania, primarily 5 to 15 degrees above normal along that Appalachian corridor there. Still hot in the west, and that's going to continue even as we head towards next week. Look at this Monday, July 15th, from Colorado and Wyoming all the way on over here to southern Maine. This entire corridor I circled, this is where, again, there is a pretty high confidence in these models that have been averaged out here, the ensemble members, that we're definitely going to have a lot of that heat going on, 10 to plus degrees above normal for this time of the year. And that's just going to persist over a lot of the eastern United States as well as the west, just most of the country, honestly, as we head through next week. This is Monday and Tuesday, my ONW temperature anomaly graphic. What you can see here across the Pacific Northwest, stretching all the way down there to the Central Plains, this is where we're going to be about 10 to 15 degrees above normal for this time of the year. That's what those deeper red shades indicate for there. In fact, we're going to be about 10 degrees above normal here as well with some of those brighter reds from Georgia to Maine into the early part of next week as well. So a lot of the country just above normal. If you're in the greens, you're in luck because you might be closer to normal, but still it is seasonably hot. Anomalies aren't everything, though. Let's see how this equates with actual temperatures. This is as we go towards our Wednesday, July 10th, the National Digital Forecast Database, indicating for tomorrow, so the day after I film this video, it's Tuesday the 9th. Here we go into Wednesday the 10th. Record-breaking heat in all of those spots. You see the boxes, or at least anticipated to be record-breaking heat. California, Nevada, Arizona, parts of western Utah, into Idaho, Oregon, as well as Washington. If you see your area in some of those deeper shades, you're looking at 100 plus degree readings. It'll be 120 plus in some communities. So again, find your location on this map. If you're north of that line I just drew, you're in that northwesterly flow behind Beryl's remnant low. Ooh, what a rhyme right there. Lots of 70s and 80s for the Great Lakes region, so that'll be pretty nice. Keeping it cool there into Thursday. Let's skip ahead to Friday. Show you now that by this point, we're starting to see that curse take over the country with heat now spreading towards the central United States. So we've got Montana, the Dakotas all the way down there towards Texas, Arkansas, as well as Louisiana. Looking at some near triple-digit heat for a lot of these areas, and trust me, if it is not triple-digit heat, it will definitely be close to feeling like it. That will already be going on in the southeast as well. In fact, as we go towards our Saturday, July 13th, look at all these areas we're throwing into the 90 degree to 100 degree range. Could be breaking some records there in Appalachia. This is where some of those anomalous temperatures are going to be felt. Even if it's in the upper 80s to low 90s there in some of the mountains, that is unseasonably warm. Here's Monday. This is one of those days that I drew my custom graphic for you. There's all that heat. It's going to be anomalous in the west, but where you're going to notice the worst heat in terms of number-wise, that is down here across a lot of the southeastern quadrant of the United States. But again, those 90s, those triple digits that we might have in some parts of Washington, say, the eastern part of the state, those are still so unseasonable that it is very anomalous. So that's why I show you the actual numbers and the anomalies. Let's look at what it's actually going to feel like on your skin in terms of those temperatures. Out here anywhere, and you see some of these pinker shades trying to fill in with the grays there, that's where the European model thinks that as we go towards Saturday, July 13th, it's going to be 100 to 105 in some communities for that feels like temperature. You don't want to be outside in that, especially if the National Weather Service issues a heat advisory for you. So make sure you're checking out weather.gov. That's going to give you those latest advisories as they come out. Even worse on Sunday in some of these communities. We're going to look at the actual numbers here in a second. But it looks like the focus is going to be in the Midwest, parts of the plains too. The southeastern United States definitely not being spared from these heat index values either. It's just, the eastern United States tends to have the worst humidity, and that's why I show you these numbers, 100 to 110, anywhere from Kansas up to Iowa, definitely 107 at the minimum in some locations, and that's definitely heat advisory criteria. While we've got the heat, we do need to talk precipitation because I mentioned and hinted at that there will be that little bit of a push towards a more active pattern again when new jet stream energy goes through this weekend. That's going to be for a select few communities. This is Saturday. These are the ensembles, so these members are thinking anywhere you see those darker grays or the greens, that's where the best chance of some rainfall will be. So Wisconsin, surrounding locations, I think you have the best chance of some thunderstorms in the afternoon and evening on our Saturday, July 13th. Nothing too severe, but we could see some marginally to slightly severe conditions issued by the Storm Prediction Center for that. As we go towards our Sunday, July 14th, a very similar setup. A lot of this northern tier seeing those grays, indicating that there's at least some consensus that we'll see some sort of thunderstorm coverage moving on through. A lot of that coverage towards the Gulf Coast and southeast coast of the U.S. That is sub-severe and just normal pop-ups that you get with that heat and humidity I've been talking about. Even as we go towards Monday to Tuesday, look at this, some of those greens indicating better chances for storms, places like Chicago, Gary, Indiana, and then on over there towards Cleveland, Ohio, getting in on some thunderstorm chances into the early part of next week. Some of that could swing towards getting into some frontal action towards the mid part of next week, and that's what these greens over here from Florida and Georgia up to the Great Lakes and northeastern region of the U.S. really indicate that the Climate Prediction Center is thinking we're going to be above average in precip, and I totally agree, as some thunderstorms will probably be keeping things active there. Active with monsoonal types of precipitation down there towards the four corners of the U.S. as well. That's it for this update video. It's a little shorter than normal. Let me know again how you like the update right down there in the comments. Let me know where you're watching from, all that fun stuff. That's it for this update video. I will see you back here in the next one, either on Thursday or Friday. Hope everybody has a blessed day out there and is staying safe.
One Nation Weather.